Hey folks, good evening and thanks for joining me on Phantoms Monsters Radio. I welcome all new listeners and members to the channel as well as first timers in the chat. Now this presentation includes some newly reported Pennsylvania cryptid canine accounts as well as some updates from other reports. So there may be one or two of them you've probably heard before, but there have been some updates included in them. Now, Pennsylvania has a rich history of cryptid canine encounters and sightings, as reports of both wolf-like and hyena-like quadrupeds and bipeds have increased dramatically in this millennium. Now, many enthusiasts are aware of our Lycan Loop reports within central Pennsylvania, but there have also been several interesting accounts outside of that region. Now, currently, the Pennsylvania Dogman Upright Canine Interactive Map details the locations of 40 known incidents. I will continue to gather, update, and chronicle the reports as I receive them. So before I go any further, I want to mention that this channel is always made possible by you clicking the subscribe and like buttons and by you sharing our programming. If you're watching us on YouTube, super chat and super thanks donations are appreciated. You can also click the dollar icon located below the chat box. The Buy Me a Coffee and other donation links are also shown in the description. Thanks for your consideration. So your comments are always welcome. Tell me which accounts you find interesting in the presentation or suggestions for upcoming shows. Now, I want to again thank our moderators, Bernadette, Marla, Thomas, and Mike, as well as Kevin and Mary at ESP Network. So now, if you're in the chat and have a question after I'm done with the presentation, go ahead and put it in all caps, and we'll get to it then. So in this first account, the witness states, I had a strange demon dog encounter. Now, my hellhound, demon dog, chupacabra, hyena sighting also occurred in broad daylight at very close range as it was eating a large goose down in the creek bed. I must have startled it since it came right up. I came right up on it unexpectedly. Now, I'm a biologist, and I have a background in several specialized biological fields. I've conducted tons of field research and have been in the forest and swamps ever since I learned how to walk. Now, this thing was massive and canine, but sort of had a hint of feline or hyena-like traits. And as far as its overall morphology and its structure, it also moved oddly for a dog. As I said, I was almost right on top of it by the time we saw each other, and I slowly backed away. And once I had enough distance between us, I promptly fled. Now, this encounter was very short, so I didn't have a lot of time to study every feature of its body, and I always chalk it up to simply being a massive and extremely bizarre, deformed dog. But I can't really justify that line of thinking, as this creature was unlike any canine I've ever seen or that appeared in the fossil record of North America. I live in Blair County, Pennsylvania, and we're not exactly known for having exotic wildlife. It's humbling to admit that as a biologist, having nothing but assumptions about what it could have been. Now, I couldn't even tell you the taxonomic family it belongs to. It was lanky for a dog and had rather long hind legs. I wouldn't characterize it as a wallaby or kangaroo-like. It seemed to have high shoulders and moved more like a big cat, but more stealthily. So I contacted the witness, and you see, he had actually contacted me, he said, back in September 2019 about this encounter. I updated the original report. He still had no idea what this creature was. Now, since this occurred in Blair County, a specific location will not be specified, though it's an area where other encounters have occurred. And we've had at least 3 other encounters with these cryptid canines in Blair County. It's a region where we've had several unexplained cryptid creature sightings in the past as well. Now, this next encounter, Center County, Pennsylvania bow hunter describes his encounter with a bright orange-eyed cryptid canine creature that he believes was a demonic incarnation. He states, I had my Dogman experience 8 years ago in central Pennsylvania in Center County. At first, my father and I were flanking to our left in the dark during archery season around 4:30 a.m. while walking to the area where we wanted to hunt. It would stop when we stopped and continued when we did. That thing waited until we were separated and my dad went off the trail to his spot before it showed itself to me, almost like it was waiting for me to be alone. These things can somehow choose when they want to be seen, like they disappear and reappear at their own discretion. That scared me badly. Now, I'm a U.S. Marine and Afghanistan combat veteran who wasn't afraid of anything until that morning. Now, before this happened, I had never even heard of Dogman or werewolves except in the movies. Now, after that ordeal, I did a lot of research because I needed an explanation or closure and found out this has been going on in Center, Clinton, and Clearfield counties since the 1800s. That was the last time I went hunting because I was terrified. I am a professional gunsmith, custom rifle builder, and 600-yard to 1,000-yard BR competitive shooter who does not hunt because I'm afraid to go back into the woods at dark. I lost friends over this that didn't believe me and know damn well I am an honest man who holds the value of integrity high, and some tried to tell me I had mistaken a bear for this thing. Well, I know what a black bear looks like, especially when it's 40 feet away. Looking in my direction, almost like it was grinning at me. I am 6 foot tall, 165 pounds. This thing looked to be slightly taller than me with eyes that glowed like 2 big lit cigars. I felt deep in my gut that this was demonic or nefarious type of entity that was somehow able to take physical form and could hurt people. I still feel that way, like it's a spawn or creation of the devil, as crazy that may sound. And, we've had other people state the same thing, even with the winged humanoid sightings. We got a lot of this demon comparison to these creatures. So, and we've heard it here in Pennsylvania as well. This next account, the witness states, my little brother and I walked around Washington, Pennsylvania, one summer night last year in 2023. Washington is a little town in Pennsylvania. That's in Washington County. That's in the southwest corner. There isn't much to do out here. He would be going to college next year, so I figured I'd do something nice and hang out with him before then. I'm self-employed, so I didn't really have to worry about putting in for vacation or anything. We spent nearly all winter playing on the old Xbox 360 games like Halo 3 until the wee morning hours. Now, I've been a fan of podcasts and YouTube videos where they talk about paranormal encounters forever, but I never imagined I'd have one myself. It was the night before Christmas. It was a picture-perfect Christmas, too. Fresh snow on the ground, all the houses decorated for Christmas, flickering lights on every roof, and an inflatable in every yard. Everyone had the Christmas spirit that year, and I don't think there was one house left undecorated. Now, my little brother wanted to drive around and look at all the houses, so I agreed to drive him around and look at all the houses if that's what he wanted to do. So we get all bundled up in our winter clothes and pile into the pickup truck. Me in my big puffy winter coat, toboggan, scarf, and sweatpants, and him in a full set of under cold gear. I swear the little guy lives at a gym and loves to wear anything that shows off the gains. I even turned on the radio and some Christmas music for some extra Christmas spirit. Now, we were just passing the nursing home in a town called The Grove at Washington, and I get this eerie feeling creep up my spine for some reason as we pass. I've heard stories from patients who stayed there and even from workers who worked there. Just a bad nursing home. In a toxic workplace, they can't keep nobody because they keep running people off, have inattentive staff, and are way too short-staffed. Maintenance is lacking too, I guess, as stuff is always breaking down. Now, back in 2020, they had part of the roof fall and trapped 4 residents who had to be rescued by firefighters. It was all over the news, but anyway, I digress. Well, we get down to the bottom of the hill, and the next thing I know is this 9-foot dark brown-haired creature that looks like a big super buff dogman looking thing on steroids bolts out of the woods in the middle of the road in front of us. Its fur is all matted with snow, mud, sticks, and leaves. It's got this nasty looking scar across its face and some smaller gnarly looking gashes across its chest. Its eyes are all bloodshot and red, and it's baring its teeth, growling so loud we could hear it over top the radio. This thing looks like it's not having a good day. I had to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting it. Now, I tell you what, I felt like all the color in my body drained and that my eyes were about to bulge out of my skull, Looney Tunes style, the moment I saw this thing. My heart was ready to bust out of my chest with how fast it was beating. I couldn't do anything but grip the steering wheel tightly. Now, my brother is in the passenger seat just losing his mind in absolute hysterics. He was in such hysterics that he's trying to hop in my seat and hug me as close to me as he could if his equally scared big stepsister could do anything. This thing the whole time is just in the middle of the road, just looking at us, looking at it. Eventually, it got bored or whatever. It let out just this horrendous howl that just chilled me right to my soul and ran off to some nearby backyards and into the night. It easily cleared every fence until we couldn't see it anymore. We both eventually calmed down enough. We eventually calmed down enough somewhat to where we could continue our evening. But the whole time we were afraid of bumping into this thing again. Now, this next account, the witness states, "Hi, Lon. A friend referred me to your Pennsylvania Dogman map. Maybe what we saw will qualify as one of these creatures. I was out deer hunting with my older brother and his best friend a few years back. I want to say 2017. We were in Columbia County, a few miles east of Elk Grove. Now, we had been walking along a trail for a good 2 miles at least. On one side of this trail is a decent drop and then a creek, and on the other side is a decent uphill section and huge forest. It was about 6 a.m. by this point, and we were just sort of quietly talking to each other when a horrific noise split the air. As we all froze and looked at each other with expressions on our faces doing all the work, we knew it came from up on the forest, and where there aren't any big predators, so really anything out there that we should be scared of. So we shouldered our rifles and headed up to find out exactly what made the sound. I wish we hadn't. We got to the clearing and the trees were thinning out, and my brother flicked on his spotlight, big and bright with excellent range. Way up ahead of us was the strangest looking figure I've ever seen, like the general shape of a wolf, but just off. It stopped on the edge of another tree line further up the hill looking right at us, pacing side to side. My brother's friend and I had our rifles trained on them, trying to get a better look. We couldn't count out the fact that it was another hunter's dog that was lost or so, against my gut feeling. So anyway, as we went up after it, became increasingly obvious this thing was watching us very intently. The closer we got, the more we realized this was just not another hunter's dog. It was really big, and just the way it moved and its entire demeanor was just so unsettling. We kept 2 rifles on it and went in the opposite direction, slowly made our way back, and haven't been back there since. I don't really talk about it either, and we still don't know what we saw, and people usually jump to the BS conclusion because, like I said before, where we live, there are not really any big predators. Now, I found out this was along Fishing Creek, which was confirmed by the witness. It was a quadruped. The witness said that it looked like a timber wolf, but it was very dark, and the snout was not like those he had seen in a photo. It also had a sloping back like that of hyena and quite muscular, and we get those reports a lot. The description is very similar to other sightings of quadruped cryptid canines I've received in Pennsylvania. Now, this location is just west of Ricketts Glen State Park, which is an area where we've had a lot of weird sightings, undetermined sightings for a lot of years. So this next account, the witness states, I'm from northwestern Pennsylvania, Clarion County. This happened years ago. In the first story, I was with my grandmother, who is 4'11" and full-blooded Sioux. She's always cranky, and she'll smack the smile off a grizzly. Now, I have read this before if it sounds familiar to her, but there were some updates. Well, one night we were sitting at the table eating dinner. Mind you, she liked her whiskey. So as we're sitting at the table, we started hearing weird grunting sounds coming from the outside, like a mixture of a dog and a pig. Well, my grandma didn't react to it, so I didn't mind it either. Now, as we continued eating, the noise started getting closer to the back door, which was only like 2 feet away from us. My grandma stood up, grabbed the broom, and muttered something. My grandma never spoke in her native language around us kids. She always spoke English. She threw the door open, and I saw a glimpse of it. There are no wolves in Pennsylvania. This thing looked huge, standing on 2 legs. It had that like a German Shepherd face while growling at my grandma. As she started swinging her broom at this wolf creature, it screamed this god-awful scream that would feel in your chest. My grandma yelled more in her language. This thing takes off, and you can see the hair and muscles that it runs off. That was the last time I saw it. My grandma closed the door, looked at me, and smiled. We're safe now, she says. And I was in shock with tears on my face. I was hyperventilating. I could still hear the screams of the creature a few years later. Now, my second story, it was sometime later when I was in my late 20s. I've traveled the states, camped and hiked places all over northern Idaho, Montana, and the Cascade Mountains. So one day I went on a trip for about an hour south of Leeper, Pennsylvania. I was out with my Yukon big bird dogs. These 100-pound plus dogs weren't afraid of anything. They chased grizzlies off and chased a few cougars. They had no fear. That was until one day pheasant hunting. I bagged 5 pheasants and a couple grouses. As the dogs worked and I bagged my limit for the day, they did something I'd never seen before. They cowered behind me, whimpering now. I was in shock. These dogs would do anything to protect me. We're deep in the Pennsylvania woods like no one around us for miles. The woods are dense and dark. I didn't see much, but I could see the ears, and they were canine-like. This thing was hiding behind a thicket of red brush, and my heart stopped. I had a 12 gauge with me so that I could slide a 3.5-inch mags in, but I only had 3 rounds due to the stopper, but we made it out of the woods. As soon as we made it to the truck, I had never seen dogs so scared. They were shivering and hiding under my seat. They finally calmed down when we got home. Now, these next couple of reports are in eastern Pennsylvania in an area very close. Now, I had talked about these in the past, but there have been some updates. The witness states, my boyfriend and I were driving in Doylestown, Pennsylvania in 2016 when we saw an upright arch-backed dog or wolf-like creature run across the road. It had long arms but was on 2 feet, and it jumped up on both legs at the same time as a hop. But it jumped high onto the wall on the other side of the road, then jumped straight up and out into the woods beyond the wall. We both saw this and couldn't figure out what it could be. It was dark out, so we couldn't see where it went and didn't really want to. It was a creature that neither of us had ever seen or knew existed. So I replied to the witness, and I received the following from her. Lon, absolutely I will talk to you. I never questioned what I saw. My ex-boyfriend, whom I'm good friends with still, can verify the experience. When I decided to Google Wolfman or Dogman creature or entity to see if it was possible that someone else may have seen something similar, I found a few sites included in your website. It's validating to see others in Pennsylvania have seen similar creatures. I never minded telling people what I saw that night. I am sure some thought I was a little crazy, but I didn't care because I knew what I saw. Now, the exact spot I saw this in are in the screenshots provided. It's Old Easton Road near the old Water Wheel Tavern in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. It was seen on the bridge that is now being restored under construction right next to the restaurant. The red X's are where the creature ran from left to right with incredible speed, and red swoops where it jumped like a kangaroo straight up on 2 legs, paused very briefly, and jumped into the wooded area like it was a monkey that could swing from wherever it landed on. Like I said, it was dark and I couldn't see where it landed. Talk to you soon. Now, I did talk to her the next day. The incident occurred in mid-June 2016 at approximately 1 a.m. local time. Now, her and her boyfriend were on their way home driving north on Old Easton Road in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, in Bucks County. Now, the creature crossed in front of them on the bridge crossing at Pine Run at approximately 50 to 60 feet. They had a very good look at the beast, which was illuminated by headlights. They both described it as 4.5 to 5 foot in height with muscular-like dog legs, biped, with human-like feet. The body was humanoid shaped, though there was a distinct arch back. The arms very long, reaching near mid-leg and muscular with prominent human-like hands. The head was canine, looked like that of a wolf with a dark, heavy mane that extended down the back. It looked like the couple exhibited eye shine. No discernible eye color. It also had a tail and was covered in dark grayish fur. This may have been a juvenile since the height is significantly shorter than most of the sightings we have had reported to us. So this next account is another one from Bucks County. Hi, Lon. About November 2019, a woman and her son told a neighbor of mine about a creature they had encountered. Now, they were driving on their way home one late afternoon or early evening after her son's practice at Central Bucks East High School. They had just left the high school parking lot and crossed Route 202 when the son started yelling for the woman to watch while looking at the road in front of them. The mother and son saw an upright animal with backward knees and a face with huge red bulbous eyes dart across the lane in front of them and leap into the field and disappear. The son thought it was a dog or an alien. He thought the eyes were huge. It turned and looked at them when it crossed, and it also had the shining red eyes, no hair, but about 4 to 5 feet in length. About 4 to 5 feet in height. First thing I'm thinking is the same thing that the previous witness had seen. I drove there to investigate the next evening with my flashlight and took my dogs along, though I left them in the car. I hoped to find prints on the grass, but it had rained earlier in the day and the grass was tall. Now, the dogs didn't bark and I didn't notice any broken grass or prints in the muddy area. Just thought I'd add credence to this report. There's some wooded areas near the Waterwheel Tavern and a very old neighborhood of stone houses. So that's the second report we got near the tavern. So here we have another report from Doylestown. Lon, back in 2020, I moved to Doylestown, Pennsylvania to be near my son and grandchildren. I found a small cabin-like apartment in Bucks County. I live near farms and woods. I signed my lease on August 6th. On the evening of August 7th, 2020, my son and I came to the apartment to start moving stuff in. We were both standing at the rear of his truck on the driveway when we both turned around, not because we heard something, but we just happened to do so. We noticed a black, odd-looking creature creeping at the end of the driveway, trying to go past us in the direction of the farm across from my cabin. It quickly turned around and was gone fast. We both agreed that it didn't look like a dog or a coyote. Now, we finished unloading that evening, and I was constantly asking him what he thought the creature was. He said he didn't know, but it was weird looking. I wrote it down because that's what I've always done. So, 7 months later, on March 1st, 2021, it was cold and windy early morning. I had put the trash out hours before and was working on my computer. I heard a loud bang, and right away, I knew it was my trash can. So I put my jacket and shoes on, grabbed my flashlight. It was a little after 3 a.m. in the morning. The reason I grabbed my flashlight is because it's very dark outside and there's wildlife in the area because of the woods and the farm. When walking on my driveway to the road, you can't see it all unless it's a full moon. Now, as I got down to my trash can and started pulling the can up from the ground, I heard a car horn blowing and the sound of someone slamming their brakes. As I looked towards the stop sign, I saw this black figure in the lights of the car standing in the middle of the road. It dropped to all fours and started heading in my direction. I noticed the guy standing in the road. Within seconds, the creature had reached my driveway. It noticed my flashlight and stood up on two legs, boxing its front paws and growling. It sounded like a snore. It had yellow eyes and stood about 6 foot. It had black spiked hair and had drool dripping from its mouth. Suddenly, the car peeled wheels and made a left turn towards my driveway. The creature dropped to all fours and was gone in a blink. The car stopped in front of the driveway and the guy yelled out, "What was that?" He then proceeded down my road. I was walking backwards, shaking nervously towards my front door. I got inside to find myself still upset and shaking my head. I stood at the door with the outside light on and waited for the car to return. And after a few minutes, the car blew by my driveway and proceeded with the original way he was headed when he encountered the creature. Now, this creature looked like something on steroids from a horror movie. I know what I saw, Lon. I don't drink or do drugs. I take care of my wife who suffered a massive heart attack and has dementia. I haven't seen this creature since then. And when I sit outside at night, I'm packed with 2 guns. I researched this and found nothing, but I continue looking in case something pops up. I hope I never see this creature again, and I still think about when I go outside at night to sit and relax. If you have any stories like mine, I'm interested in knowing about it. You may find this sounding crazy, but my background is that I work for the police and fire departments in Baltimore County, Sparrows Point Police, high-tech security and private bodyguard, bank security, and I also work security for the Baltimore Blast soccer team in Pinkerton. Anyway, I believe that this may have been an upright canine incident, and since we've had so many sightings in that area around Doylestown, interesting. After that was reported to me, we haven't had another sighting in Bucks County, even in all Bucks County. So I don't know. Now, I'm going to. I'll discuss this event in more detail with the witness if we ever get to talk again. But we've had so many similar reports. I just don't know what to think it is. So let's see what here. Oh yeah, here's another account. This was up near outside of Scranton. In January 2019, I noticed something lumbering down my driveway. The window I was looking out faces over and above the drive, if that's clear. For example, I can see the roof of your car. I can see the roof of your car, but not always the bottom of the tires. Regardless, I noticed movement. I look out and I see what I initially thought was a bear, nose to the ground, kind of snuffling its head side to side, casually walking down the drive on all fours. A little geographical clarity. I live in town. The front of my neighborhood faces a major highway, but the back is all state game land. I've seen some wildlife, turkeys, a deer here and there, and every skunk in the county apparently lives on my street. I don't see many squirrels, groundhogs, or chipmunks, which is a bit odd. I'm not very far from the city of Scranton, about 7 miles from downtown, so I'm not exactly in the sticks. I watched this so-called bear mosey down toward the street, its head lowered. I moved from the living room window to my bedroom window that has a full view of the street. Sure enough, here it comes. But something is wrong. I watch this beast stand on 2 legs and casually walk out into the road. I see pointed ears and a long snout. It's got its head raised, smelling the air. This was no bear. I saw it in perfect silhouette under the yellow streetlight. It was either dark gray or black. The yellow light threw off the true color. It stood without effort, looking like one fluid movement. It then walked across the road, casual as you please, and kind of hunkered down in some scrub brush. Then I realized it was looking right into my bedroom. It had blue eyes. I'm not sure if it was reflected from light, but they were glowing. It looked right at me. I lost my legs at the moment and sat down under my window, absolutely panicked. I was home alone with 5 cats and a dog who slept through the whole thing. I didn't know what to do. My window's a big picture window, and if it wanted me, it easily could have gotten me. I cautiously got on my knees to peek over the sill, and I lost it. Didn't see eyes or anything. It seemed to be either moving away from the forest behind my house or decided to rest up in the scrub brush. What I saw under the streetlight is as follows: darkish fur, high pointed ears, long muzzle. Never saw teeth, or if it had a tail. It had hands with long claws that hung kind of limp wrist. If they were fully extended, they would hang below the knee. It walked on hot dog legs. It looked heavily muscled, but had a tapered waist. It was about 7 to 7.5 feet tall, judging for where it stood in relation to the streetlight. It was not aggressive, even when I felt it look right at me. I was terrified, but I didn't get a sense that it was pissed off. It had been seen, or as many people report. I didn't take a picture because I simply didn't think to. I was in a fair amount of shock, but sometimes your phone is the absolute last thing on your mind. There have been some odd sounds tapping on my window, and I can hear scratching on the side. I don't see that many animals around the neighborhood. There used to be about 7 stray cats I fed. They're all gone. Once the weather broke, it was quiet. I installed motion lights and bought 2 game cameras. I'm hoping they are, in a sense, like Sasquatch. They avoid game cams. I don't ever want to see this thing again. Those of you who want to see one, pray you never do. My encounter was non-aggressive. I can't imagine having to deal with this thing pissed off. I still can't sleep a full night, and every sound scares the hell out of me after dark. I live alone, and the 357 I own would probably just ruffle its fur. So, folks, that's the last account. If you got any questions, please put them in all caps, and Mike or Mary will put them up for me. Now, I do realize that I did read some of those, but there was some added information to them, and I just wanted to clarify some of that stuff and reread it. And people who do steadily look at the map will notice that there was the changes and some things were added to it as well. Any questions, folks? See, Sir Wolf. Hey, Lon, have there been any daytime, early morning sightings of Dogman? Very few. I have talked to hunters who had seen them during the day, but as far as in residential areas, it's usually always at night. I don't even remember one in the daytime going across the road. So it's usually hunters that do see them. Dagnammit, have you heard of hunters shooting at these creatures with power rifles and nothing happened to them? Yeah, I have. More so with Sasquatch or Bigfoot. One guy years ago who said he did shoot at one at a distance, but he didn't notice anything unusual. But it didn't go down. It kept running, and he was sure he hit it. Paranormalism Net, have they shown intelligence in civilized behavior? They do show intelligence. Usually, in most of the stories that I had picked up on or that Butch had time picked up on, especially with hunters that encounter these things, they probably have some type of infrasound or some type of abilities to communicate with the hunters or whoever they come across. And many times these things are huge. I mean, we've had people talk about them being as tall as 9 to 10 foot. So, but usually they back off. They lower their guns and they back off and slowly back away. Jose Sanchez, Lon, like Bigfoot, do the upright canines have a particular smell associated with them? Not really. I've heard a couple of different ones. I've heard of ammonia smells. I've heard of, which could be, something similar to what a Bigfoot puts out. I've also heard burning electric insulation smell or metallic smell. But they probably don't seem to be too strong from what I've heard. Dagnammit, have people disappeared in the woods where these cryptids reside? Well, there are people that have disappeared a lot of different places. Can we tell if it has anything to do with these cryptid canines? I don't know. We have no proof of that. Or I haven't seen anything that gives any proof of that. Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy Podcast. What are the thoughts on government creation? I hear yellow eyes and red eyes. What the color eyes are genetic features and each have their own abilities. Well, there's a lot of theories about this. We've heard a lot of theories, especially out in the West, in New Mexico in particular, even in Utah, that maybe there's something to do with some type of government involvement. I don't know. Here in Pennsylvania, I don't know. I don't think there's anything. I honestly believe these creatures, like most cryptids, I believe, are interdimensional beings, that they're not here all the time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it seems to me they kind of pop in and out. And, that's kind of the same thing we get with Bigfoot and any other winged beings and such. So I still believe that they're possibly an interdimensional being. Paranormalism Net, have you considered setting up surveillance trail cams in hotspot locations? Yeah, we have set them up and we haven't picked up on anything. Butch he had some areas where he lived at near French Creek State Park that he had a lot of them up. But of course, we never captured anything. Now, a year after Butch passes away, we get a big report of a big sighting near French Creek. So, at this point, we don't have anything discernible as far as any type of pictures, any type of video. Mary, Mother Trucker, do you think there is some shape shifting with these creatures or these creatures? Yeah, I think there's shape shifting available. I mean, it's possible. I mean, if they have some type of supernatural aspect to them, who's to say that they can't shapeshift or do something that's just not known to us? I think it's possible. After doing this for as long as I've been doing, I mean, almost anything is possible in my mind. I mean, I hear things that I wouldn't even consider at some point, but then as time goes on, it seems that, well, maybe their suggestion or whatever somebody thought may actually be possible. That's just part of the cryptid world. We don't really know the true nature of these creatures. Shorter Cook, do you think disclosure will touch on any of the cryptid topics if it ever happens? I don't know. There seems to be a concerted effort not to talk disclosure as far as cryptids go. I mean, if you're talking about government or military, I mean, occasionally a story will get out. It's never confirmed, never corroborated. But, who knows? Maybe we'll find out Bigfoot and Dogman are alien beings, and when the other disclosure comes in, we'll find out something we didn't know or didn't even imagine. So we'll just have to wait and see. Jose Sanchez, as in wolf packs, has there been any evidence, witness testimony to show that there is one in charge of the others? Not really. We don't really get any sightings in packs. It's usually solitary sightings as far as the cryptid canines go. I think in Pennsylvania, we've only had one report where there could have possibly been another beast, but they weren't very close together. And that was in Clearfield County early on when we started looking into this. Anything else, folks? There's one more. Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy Podcast. Is there a correlation between UAPs and Dogman encounters like some Bigfoot sightings? Not that I can determine. Here in Pennsylvania, we haven't heard that. I don't know if anybody has really even put that connection together. Of course, we've had that as far as Bigfoot go, but even with the winged humanoids, we've had UFO sightings near them, or seem to be associated. I think what they were doing was looking for them, but in Chicago. So yeah, I don't know. Ann Boyle, Lon, did Linda Godfrey's family continue her work? Not that I know of, though her son did have some things to do with, especially the big panther sightings in Wisconsin. As far as her other work, I don't know if he's involved with it or not. Okay, well, thanks to each and all of you for watching and chatting. And if you donated, it's truly appreciated. Your support's what makes all of this possible. So please like, subscribe, and share. Again, if you have a sighting or encounter report that you'd like to consider for this show or for the Phantoms Monsters blog, feel free to forward to my email at lonstrickler@phantomsandmonsters.com. And phantomsmonsters.com, go to the blog. I post every day. So you get an idea of some of the things that come my way. So until next week, y'all take care. Have a great weekend, and we will talk soon.